morning, everyone. Before we get into this morning's update, I'd like to go over a quick overview of what to expect in this morning's update and also a lot of movement that's happened overnight. As we can see, Bitcoin's up 7.38% or up 5,000 points to 74,504. It's come up to those upper liquidation zones. I had a live last night, if any of you were in there. We talked about how the short-term bullish move for XRP, it was reversing bullish, and the Bitcoin move, as long as it held that 67,700, seemed all but certain. And there's a lot of liquidation, as we know. If we'll take a look at the Bitcoin heat signature map, or the liquidation map, I should say. And there's a lot of liquidation down at 64,500. However, we seen yesterday, the day before, the upper liquidation zones up near 74, 75K. There's 400 and 500 million and a bunch of these little sections here from a lot of short traders that went short. And now we've come up to those upper boundaries. Now what we're going to have to see is if Bitcoin's going to continue to play up and look at the next targets. Look to see if XRP is going to make that run to 56, just over 56 cents. We'll take a very close look at that, as it did come up over that critical 51.5 cent level. And as we talked about in the live yesterday, if it comes over 51.5, it was a beautifully bullish signal, and then you could do what you chose. We've talked about a lot of different ways that this could go, but we know now that Trump was elected in the USA, which initially is going to be bullish for crypto, but now once we get out of these liquidation zones, that we grab this liquidity from the upper regions of Bitcoin, can we continue to follow through? Or are we going to have that grand pullback to the big liquidity zones, which now, because we had the artificial rise up, or even maybe this is more than an artificial rise up, we're going to try to figure that out in today's analysis. We'll see how far this can potentially continue and what could be the area of concern if we're starting to push up. So please make sure to hit that like button so YouTube does recommend this update. It's going to be very important as XRP is surging, crypto is surging. Bitcoin's up over 5,000 points this morning, over 7%. We've got commodities, I hate to say it, but I tried to warn everybody about the gold breakdown. It's down to 2,696. Big opportunities should be at us this morning, but we've come to that uptrending support. And now it's to decide, do we hold this 2,698 area, or is it going to have a quick fall down to 2,621? Is this the time when gold starts to reverse back down now that Trump was elected? Is this where we start to have that overall calamity here in the precious metals market, where we're going to get a huge opportunity, like I told everybody? A lot of cash on hand for this drop. So I've been waiting for this, and we'll see what happens. But I'll keep everybody updated later today. We're not going to talk too much about precious metals this morning. I just wanted to show a quick overview of what was going on. US dollar is up 1.89%, or almost $2 right now, to 105.41. That is not going to last forever either. So just take advantage of some of these opportunities that are going to be short-lived in some of these other markets. So let's get into the intro. Like I said, we'll get into the Bitcoin heat signature map, and we'll take a look at this from the short to the longer term. And then we'll also take a look at the XRP liquidation zones, short versus longs, see what the liquidity levels are, and also see what the open interest is, because yesterday it was surging. And let's see where we stand today. So please make sure to hit that like button so YouTube does recommend this update. It'll allow me to pop up in more news feeds. I was very surprised more people didn't watch the live last night, seeing that I tried to front run it for our community so that you would know we were flipping bullish. I put XRP on the verge of flipping short-term bullish. Bitcoin remains bullish above 67.7K. I thought it was pretty simple. Put it on the update earlier. XRP, a big opportunity setting up. Pay attention. Bitcoin target 74K liquidity zone. And that was when I was in my son's therapy yesterday. But they didn't do too well, those videos, surprisingly. And Bitcoin, here we are over at that 74,000 liquidity area. So a lot of information was put out yesterday. For the ones who've seen it, I am very pleased. The ones who missed it, going forward, just make sure to hit that like button, and hopefully it'll pop up in your newsfeed whether you've seen my content or not, and we can make an educated and informed decision together. So good morning, 7:35 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on this Wednesday, November 6th, 2024. I'm XRP Future Millionaire, and I reside in the great state of Michigan. So XRP at 4.14% right now. What exactly is going on, and where can we expect ourselves to go? Well, we know our short term, if we could pass that 5150, which we did last night, we got on top of it. We started to surge up. Now we've got several areas that we can target. Now we won't be able to come all the way up here at first to 58.4 cents. We've got areas in between. We've got the 56.88, which I think is the most likely scenario, as we talked about yesterday, if we had a surge up. That's the cup and handle resistance. So I believe that that is a very formidable spot that XRP can come up to. And then we'll see. We're going to see very quickly here in the next about 24 hours how far we can actually go with some of the cryptocurrency, how far Bitcoin can go. We've got a major resistance that I suspect we're going to come up and try to touch here at, let's see this in recent times because it's going to be a little bit higher, 57.3 cents. And if you're familiar with the XRP setup right now, we've got a massive cup and handle, which is bullish. And we have a big W reversal, inverse head and shoulders. We're just trying to get over that 57.63 or 57.33 so we can make a push back up to the rising channel and try to retest that resistance around 66.5 cents. So in the short term, we've created ourselves some bullish opportunity. We know we've got 58.86 cents on this formation that was started back in March on at least the short side of this. And then we know if you go back farther, the support was started much earlier than March. You can go all the way back here, or on the pattern formation, you can start here in August. It's consolidating. If it were to break out of this, you have a technical rise up. That could get you it's a pretty substantial move. And we're getting a catalyst right now as long as Bitcoin continues moving. But as you know, I said this the last several days, if Bitcoin decided to take the up route and target that 75K liquidity zone first and end up putting itself in discovery before it went down for that 1.1 billion in liquidity, it could be a situation where we come up, we tap this short-term liquidity zone where there was 400, 500, 600 million in several layers stacked up around 75K. And then it could force us back down. It could force us back down. And that's something that I am paying very close attention to this morning with Bitcoin, XRP as well. Because now Bitcoin, we've come up over. So basically the way my targets are working, first layer was to hit all-time highs at 73,697. We back-tested perfectly the megaphone pattern is what I'm calling it on that cup and handle consolidation on the handle. Back-tested the handle breakout perfectly. Now we've come back over 73,697. Next target, which is the short part of this megaphone, is up to 78,609. Wider part of the megaphone brings us up to 86,000 if it plays true. And then if the handle plays out bullishly and it plays true the cup, you measure the cup and then you get a technical target, and that's all the way up at 115K. So those are the targets that can happen with Bitcoin. However, before we get too excited, Bitcoin has a huge liquidity zone that it can come back down to at any point. Is it going to come back down now? You don't know. Right now we're on a nice surge, but and I don't always like to I like what I'm seeing, but I know the zones that we are going to be targeting soon. And I just want to make sure my audience is not thrown off here. So if you come like this, and I think it would probably be easier because you could start it from there and we could say we're in kind of like a rising wedge. I just want to see something. It's breaking out of it, though. This is interesting. If Bitcoin stays, that's kind of like a rising wedge. If Bitcoin stays over that, that's a huge signal. And that's why that 73,697 adds up beautifully. If you start looking at some of these numbers. So, I mean, it looks like a rising wedge could be forming, but it broke out. If it breaks out of this rising wedge, that's actually a nice bullish signal if it can break out. So we need to hold that 73,697 area. That's the bottom line. 73,697. And this could make some noise. I don't want to mess up this chart, but That, you see that little rising wedge that was trying to form here. If it stays over the top of 73,697, because that looks like a bull flag is trying to form here again. And if that's the case, this is going to surge us up past 78,600 because we've got technical zones above us that we must touch. We're going to have to hit if it plays bullish. So pay attention to that 73,697 because technically there's a rising wedge that is forming, but we're on the top side of it. So if we break out of the rising wedge, that gives us validity to come up to 86. So we got to pay attention. But this could all be the caveat on top of what happened last night. So we're going to have to be very, very, very vigilant of this. Very vigilant. AMP was something I looked at. We know about VELO. We know about a lot of stuff. But AMP was one that I looked at. And I'm like, man, this has been beaten down. And I actually made a position play. It hasn't done diddly squat. I made it at 3497. And I was hoping for a little bit better than what it did. It only came up, I'm being honest, it didn't come up much. I guess, I mean, it's better than nothing, but 6.7% since I bought it, roughly. And it's not exactly what I was hoping for. I bought 1 million tokens, so you can do the math yourself. I bought 1 million tokens of AMP, and it's up about 6.7%, but I was hoping for a little more. This is what I was hoping to see in precious metals. I'm hoping on the open, though, in an hour and a half, that the commodities will sit down. We had buy-in zones after, and for First Majestic, we all know the story last week. I struggled with it, but I sold at $7.60, and my target buy was $6.88. We're within that buy zone now. So now it's going to be, you know, up to the eyes of the beholder. Fortuna Silver Mines, we sold at $5.27, and the target was right here at $4.64. So again, we're coming within the margin of error here. B2 Gold sold at $3.38. What we were targeting was either at, where was this at? 4 hourly. We still got some room here. Could come all the way down to like 304. So we'll see how it looks on the open, but it looks like we're going to get our corrective phase that we were talking about. It's already starting. So can't be mad about this when you're looking at this forward thinking. But now it's going to be a question of where exactly do you buy back in and how long exactly do you hold on to crypto. So let's go take a look at the Bitcoin heat signature map while we have a chance. It's already been 12 minutes and 29 seconds. Holy smokes. This has been a very quick update. So let's take a look at it in the monthly real quick. This will give us a bigger overall understanding of the liquidation zones. And it's come up here to these $400 and $500 million zones here now, which is incredible. It cleared out all of this liquidity. Look at this. It cleared out all of this liquidity. Now there's basically none over here. That's an incredible how quickly it did this yesterday. But we talked about if it took the upper route, there was a lot of liquidity in that upper range. And we can see it too. This is what it did yesterday. Remember, we were down here and it had all this liquidity up here. It's all like jacked up right now. See how it came up into the zone? But that's what we were talking about yesterday. Now we still got 1.2 billion down here. And that's at 64,550. Now, the crazy thing is we filled out all of those liquidity zones in the upper zone. So we've taken out a couple $1 billion as we moved our way up. So now that we've taken out the upper boundaries, the only liquidity left is in the lower boundaries, unless some are taking out shorts, and we can see that in the 12-hour chart. And if it bounces bullish, let's see what we're looking at. So obviously a lot of short positions have been taken out here as it came up into here. Let's see. We're trying to come up to the upper boundaries. We still got some liquidity up at 75, 76, 77. So, I mean, it could continue up, like we said. If it comes up to that 78K, there's a lot more liquidity up there as well. It's just we know underneath we've got that $1.2 billion liquidity zone at 64.5 for any eventual fallback. So we need to make sure that we pay attention to those zones very carefully because those will come back into play in the future. But right now we've taken the upper route. So we just, yesterday and the day before, we tried to figure out if it took the up route where that garnered attention would come from. And now we know. Now we know. So the open interest right now is up 5.89%. It's up 555. It has 556.6 million And open interest up 5.89%. Leading the way is 278 million on Bybit, 212 million on Binance, and so on and so forth. The funding rates right now are probably more, they're positive right now, which is a good sign. Liquidations, right now we've had 3.2 million liquidated, 960,000 in longs, 2.2 million in shorts. As we said yesterday during the live and the update later, mostly in the live though, we talked about how it looked like we were getting a reversal in the short versus long liquidations, as it was dead even yesterday. The few days prior, it was along the long liquidations. Yesterday, it started to flip to short liquidations. Right now, we've got a 2.47 to 1 in the 5 and 30 minute. 71.19% are going long. 28.8% are going short. In the 1 hourly and 4 hourly, 2.46 to 1, we've got 71.2% going long, 28.8% going short. And then in the, or 71.12% going long, 28.88% going short. And in the daily, 2.56 to 1 going long versus shorts. 71.93% are going long, 28.07% going short. So a lot of contrast setups here. The longs right now are playing out, and the shorts are being exterminated right now. Let's just put it that way. They are being exterminated. The Fear and Greed Index, after that big rise up yesterday, we are still at 70. No change from yesterday. Very interesting. Very interesting. Still in greed. Last week we were extreme greed. So, a lot to consider here on this morning's update. A lot to consider. We've already had this run up. Ethereum's up 9.1%, which to me seems to lead to a good omen for AMP later on today. But we will see. We will see. But I believe this move isn't done yet, and we'll see if it can exacerbate this move up for me and start playing its way back up to the upper boundaries. It's had quite the fall here over the last, let's see. And it looks like, to me, too, the reason I like this, it looked like it was creating an inverse head and shoulders. If it pulls up from here, it'll be much more identifiable as an inverse head and shoulders. Just trying to give a little bit of extra details on some of the thoughts I'm feeling. And then if it does this and it pulls up, you'll easily be able to see inverse, inverse, inverse setup, back up. And then this would create some kind of pattern possibly. Well, first it would have to create this 5-2. But it looks like it's creating some kind of cup and handle here. But it's very hard to determine because AMP does it so quickly. And it usually needs broader support from Ethereum. And seeing Ethereum coming up 7 or 9% so far, for me, it gives me a lot of confidence that this is going to play out in the way that I'm seeing. But at the same time, nothing's ever certain, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing is ever certain. Nothing. Because, yeah, you could technically say you have something like that. You could say that it came through like this and it created its expandable zone. You know, but the bottom line is this is going to have to re-break this upper boundary. And the good news is right now is Ethereum is trying to break back into that bullish section. This is just like XRP yesterday. So it needs to retake 3714, and then it opens up the door to the upper boundaries, which is what I don't want to say I'm expecting it, but I'm anticipating something like this happening. So it needs to break 3713, and then it opens up the door for that move to about the 4.4, the 004 cent mark, 0044. So almost a half of a penny is what it would play up to. Let's get this, just want to look at one thing real quick. I want to get the graph out so I can see how big of a move that is. Just in case. So from 3713, you're looking at about 18% if it comes up to that upper boundary. And right now that is a big lockstep because if this gets rejected, it did come up from that 7% move. I got in at 3497, so I didn't hit the bottom of the move, but I was aware of what was starting to transpire here in the reversal. So I'm trying to make a play on this, like I said. I bought a pretty hefty amount. I bought 1 million tokens of AMP, and we'll see how it plays out in that spot positioning. It hasn't really done much. It's up like 6.5%, but I'm willing to see how this transpires. But if I see a breakdown from Bitcoin, and it looks like we're going to start to go after those liquidity zones, I'm not married to the position, so I've already made 6.5%. If it decides that it's showing me a big reversal already this morning, I'm not. There's nothing that is going to make me hold on to things tight this morning. Only because I know that strong liquidity zone out of Bitcoin, but I also know the market needs to do what it needs to do here and shake itself out. So pay attention to the commodities market, pay attention to the precious metals market. They're very important today. You're going to get an opportunity that we spoke of over a week ago when we liquidated our precious metals. And there was a reason why. I'm going to throw towards, likely, the way I'm going to do this is I'm probably going to look at First Majestic. I'm going to buy, guaranteed, I'm buying 3,000 shares of B2 Gold when it's time, because that's my number. I will probably buy at least 600 shares of Fortuna Silver Mines and at least 500 shares of First Majestic when it comes back on. When it, when I see where it's at and the way this is shaking out, because we're getting to a point now where it's only going to be able to go down so far. And right now we've come to that upper boundary. It's the same thing I've talked about with gold this entire run up. Every time it came outside this uptrending support is where I would sell. So sell back to the support, sell back to support. But now it's the support, so now I have to be very cautious. And it's like I'm not selling them for the long term to sell. You're selling them to reposition on each of these drops. So that's a pretty substantial move now. And it'll allow you, when you do things like this, if you take the same shares back, you'll be able to have some capital in your pocket and you might be able to expand into something else. But I'm looking at about, if we look at this price, $6,500 worth of positions here when it's all said and done. And then where B2 Gold sits right now, if I do the 3,000 shares, it's at 321. That'd be like 9,600, but that's where it's at now. But I've got to look on the open to see. So nothing sure today, but I'll keep everybody updated. If you're looking to trade crypto and you want to join me on exchanges, make sure you go into the video description below and or pinned comments. You've got BITUNIX. You can copy trade me there when I start copy trading. I'll be buying Algo, IOTA, and IOTX when I feel like the market hits it. I suppose I could have bought some leading into this, but I went another route, which right now it's apples to oranges because it went up the same amount. But we'll see how this plays out. I'm very intrigued. So go in the video description below and pinned comments. No KYC or VPN. Lowest spot leverage trading fees I've seen in the USA, hands down, on BitUnix. And then VELO. There's a few others on HOTCOIN that you can do as well. But other than that, I got to get going. Hashtag be better, do better in the comments. And remember, stay positive, stay emotionless, and watch this every step of the way.